Hi, and welcome to Coach's Corner, where systems matter and both personal and professional learning and development is beneficial for everyone and essential for some. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, today we're joined with Brett Zandis, or better known as Coach Little Z23. I think we've shot close to 100 videos now, so the introduction is quite similar to the same, but I think that it's kind of funny, yes, I'm his son, as you guys found out in the last video, and so the more I get to know him, the more I get to...
Do we look alike?
The more I get to know him, the more I get to see that he's a caveman. So this whole technology thing is a big jump for him, and I think that you can't really tell because he's such a professional and he makes everything seem so easy and stuff, but he spent a lot of time on this in the last probably 6 months, really getting ready and prepping for this moment to share what he has, his knowledge and different things like that. And so it's impressive to see what he's done in a short amount of time learning this technology and how to do YouTube and how to do social media. And so I hope that you guys can appreciate it, because I know I sure do. It's crazy to see this big jump in a person when you don't know if they can actually make it with technology, because it's very tough for anyone, doesn't matter how old or young you are. So I wanted to get that out. But today we're going to be talking about business and the different things that he's done in business. It's an impressive feat what he's done in the last 15 years as a business owner, with the different people he's helped, mentored, and what they've done with their own businesses and stuff. So he's not just doing it for his own business, like he said, it's here to help the people, and that's really what he preaches, and he takes that action as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Oh, and I coach too.
Oh, and you coach as well, that is right.
I.e. Coach Little Z.
Absolutely, that's a good point. So before we get started, is there anything you'd like to add or say about business or anything in general?
Not in particular. I look forward to doing these videos. We're getting a few views, nothing crazy, but again, if it can help one person, then I'm down for it.
Absolutely. So talking about business today, you had both types of business that was at a storefront, a business that's been at home. What are some expenses that have been saved being able to work from home for you and your employees?
Well, I mean, for the employees, you have gas and even just time, right? Most people don't get paid to drive to work, right. But if your commute, probably even in Bakersfield, which is a pretty small town, could be 20 or 30 minutes both ways. That's an hour, so you're saving time. And that's another reason why I like systems. It's the ultimate time hack. So I think there's, those types of things. I think people aren't eating out as much, so you're saving money with food and, different things of that nature. I think that I just got rid of my gym membership, and it was only $10 a month, but, I think people are cutting down. Because there's usually two ways as far as money goes. You can increase, your revenues or decrease your spending to be able to get back into your pocket. And then, so I think that's, primarily for the people. And then you also asked about the business owner.
Yes.
Yeah, so the brick and mortar, right? Usually it's about the second highest budget item, right? So salaries are usually the top, that's usually 70 or 80%, depending on what kind of business you're in. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, so if you're saving, if you have 5 locations and you're saving $10,000 a month, let's say roughly $2,000 a month for 5 locations. Yeah. That's a lot of money. Right. And so what we've decided to do is give that back to our employees. Right? We've given them pay raises or bonuses or different things of that nature. Yeah. And then, of course, we've taken some of that money back for ourselves, or we'll readjust it and put it somewhere else. But we thought that would be cool to give back to the people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. This is
Did you just get a bonus, by the way?
I think I did, actually.
Like 4 cents.
Yeah.
And then I took back 2 of them.
Yeah. And the government doesn't even know the other 2. This is a crazy question, because I think everyone would answer they would do it. But is there any business that doesn't have any competition?
I wouldn't think so. Yeah. I'm sure when, we've talked about that before, the innovator, which I have a hard time with anyway, but the innovator entrepreneur, they would have probably zero competition for a little while. But, there's going to be the copycats out there. and usually it's going to come quick. So, as you said earlier, I'm the caveman.
Yeah.
So I discovered the wheel,
Yeah.
right? And then my caveman partner, who tried to take my wife, by the way, I clubbed him. But, then he came up with a better wheel, and then I came up with a better, it's the
Right.
bat story. But I think discounting that, I mean, I'm sure there are, but nothing really comes to mind.
I'm sure that you've dealt with a lot of different negotiations and stuff throughout your day.
A few.
Yes. How have you, or how do you respond to someone that has a take it or leave it type of negotiation?
Well, it depends. If it's a win-win situation, and I've had people that are, so let's say something like this, for example. So I was going to pay $100 for a sports memorabilia item, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they started at $200. And let's say, I got them down to where I was saying, well, I want to pay $50. And they said, well, you can either take 80 or I'm going to take 80 or that's it. I'm done,
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, twist my arm.
Yeah.
Right? So it depends, but I also like win-win situations.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really cool when I deal with youth. I'll negotiate, hard, like with a 10-year-old kid. Like he's a grown man.
Yeah.
And then I'll get him, down to just, because business.
Right.
But then I'll give him $100 on the side for learning.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
But to me, and I let him know, I said, this is my charity that I'm giving you this $100.
Right.
But for me, I'm gonna teach you how to negotiate. And then we always talk afterwards. So where were you at? What did you start with? And usually they don't have a system.
Yeah.
So I have a system that I go through
Right.
all the way down through, and so it's fun to deal with youngsters. They're selling their baseball cards.
Yeah.
I'm like, the Michael Jordan $50,000 card I'm getting for $4. Not really. But I'll negotiate hard with them, but I'll always reward them for learning that stuff, because I think it's an important skill.
Right. And we'll talk about negotiating a little later on, but I did have a question because, I think that knowing you personally and whatever, maybe they understand as well, you're a kind person.
Yeah.
Has that ever, not bitch in the butt, but have people mistaken your kindness for weakness when it comes to negotiating? Like you said, hey, here's $100 for charity, and then they come back thinking, oh, he's going to do that again or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think so. I have kind of a unique personality like that, because I'll say something at the end, like something like that to the little kid, and I'll be like, don't think that's happening next time though,
Right.
So just to kind of always kind of keep them off balance a little bit. But one of the things that I did learn a long time ago, so I gave the cleats off my feet to a kid that was played football for me in 8th grade. He was slipping.
You guys both same age?
No, I was coaching him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and but his foot was the same size as mine. I got a small foot, right?
Okay.
Size matters, but not in that case, right? So I just said, here, take my shoes, because he was slipping.
Okay.
And he wound up stabbing me in the back, literally. And I had to make a decision right then, and this was early in my teaching career. I was probably a year, I think it was my 3rd year in, actually.
Okay.
And so I made a decision right then that it doesn't matter what the other person does.
Right.
It matters what I do
Yeah.
and how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And it's a bonus if they're, accepting of it and liking of it and nice about it.
Right.
But this guy literally stabbed me in my back. But later on down the road, it was like at the end of the year, 'cause this was during football season, there was a thing where a kid had lied about something that I did. And this kid was there, and he said, that kid's lying.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it worked out to where, if you do right things by people, usually it's going to come back to you.
Right.
And if you're doing right things for it to come back, on you or to you, shame on you.
Yeah.
Just to do right things because they're right things to do. And usually that'll come back and help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Got it. And then the last question, just overall, do you think 40-hour work weeks?
You could stop right there, because you just are speaking the foreign language to me right there.
For the average person, the 40-hour work week or 50-hour work week depending, was designed to make people obviously lose energy, sleep, different things like that, so that they wouldn't try to open up their own business?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do know that for sure, because I forget who, somebody I know pretty well a long time ago. Hopefully I'm historically correct here.
Yeah.
That the reason that the 40-hour week came about was because of the factory workers back in the day were basically 8 in the morning till 5, and they wanted to teach, they can't work and work with their kids, but they also wanted to teach the kids that schedule from 8 to 3. Okay. So, to me, that's why I think that really came about. But I also think that you're asking, does that 40-hour work week also hinder on somebody's side hustle or their attempt, if they're a little bit scared or nervous or conservative, to go into business or entrepreneurship? And I think that's what you're asking as well.
Yes.
And I don't think so. I just think I think the tail wags the dog, and I think that that people do things based off of tradition. And I don't say that in every video, but when it comes up, I try to make a good point of it. Yeah. I tell all my peeps, people. I say I grab them by their ears when I'm serious. That means I'm serious. Yeah. And I would grab the audience by their ears or whoever's listening and say, why are you doing the things that you're doing? Right? Because systems are a form of habits, rituals, customs, processes, procedures, blah, 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 right? And we all do these things.
Yeah.
But why? Is it based off of tradition?
Right.
Well, that's what my mom did and my grandma did and my sister did. Okay, well, that was smart for them back then, or maybe it wasn't smart, either way.
Yeah.
But now it's not smart. We've mentioned that before with the 30-year mortgage. That made sense for, my parents and my wife's parents.
Yes.
Because you bought a house and you stayed there for 30 years and it made sense.
Yeah.
But for me, I've saved thousands and made thousands on the thousands I've saved. And I mean tens of thousands and more based off of all my friends are at a 7, 8, 9, 10%, and I'm at a 1%. Right. And the next year mine goes up too because I'm on a variable.
Right.
Well, I'm going to refinance anyway, every 3 years.
Yeah.
So, there's things that we do that just maybe don't make sense.
Right.
And so that's the challenge that I have for the audience is, start writing down what are your customs, your rituals, your habits, your systems, your structures, your whatever, and figure out what really makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? And, I've talked about that before. Taking your clothes off before you get in the shower,
Yeah.
that's your habit. That makes sense.
Right.
Right? But there's other things that maybe don't make sense. And we've talked about that before with the ham story.
Yeah.
Where the little kid goes and says, Mom, why do you cut the back part of the ham off? I don't know. Go ask your grandma.
Right.
Grandma says, I don't know. Go ask your great-grandma. And eventually the great-grandma says, well, I don't know why those two knuckleheads did it, but I did it because my pan was too short.
Right.
Well, I think there's a lot of that out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's to me, other than systems and time hacks and different things like that, that's one of the reasons that I like doing these videos, and hopefully it can help somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to first dive into customers,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with customers and different things like that with being a business owner. So the first question is the customer always right?
No.
No.
But mostly right.
Okay.
Right? So we call them POIs, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we have, in our service business, we have clients.
Yeah.
And then in our, brick and mortar, we have customers.
Okay.
And then we have our employees, our self-employed independent contractors, our freelance. So I just blanketly call them POIs, people of interest.
Got it.
And so, for the most part, the customer's right with one exception. If you're bashing on one of my employees or somebody that's in my fold, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and you're wrong, I'm gonna let you have it.
Right.
Right? Now, if you're onto me, go ahead. I don't care. Even if you're 100% wrong, to a point.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll be like, look,
Yeah.
if you'd like to go out into the alley and have some little tea time, we can do that.
Right.
But no, I mean, the customer's mainly right, because if they're agitated, there's usually a reason for it.
Right.
And remember, people's perceptions are their realities.
Yeah.
So even if you could, what I call defend, deflect, explain, rationalize, clarify, throw a rock in the bush, or blame somebody else, I tend not to do that.
Yeah.
And I teach my people the same thing. There's a reason usually,
Yeah.
and it may not have anything to do with us. Maybe their goldfish died the night before,
Right.
and we're people of emotion.
Yeah.
And I say, are you going to react out of emotion, or
Right.
will you respond out of intellect? So we teach our people to respond out of intellect.
Yeah.
And even in my responses that look like they're not responses, they're responses. They're controlled and whatnot, right?
Absolutely.
Because I'm not going to allow any customer to puppet me.
Right.
Nobody's sticking their hand up my butt. That's out, right? Not you either, doctor.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Has there ever? I mean, I'm sure there's been instances where the customer was bashing on the employee, right? And it was like, no, that's not right. What about when the person was bashing on your employee and they were right? What does that situation look like?
So usually what I'll do is if I'm there, I'll take over and, get them calmed down. I have a bunch of things that I do. I have a continuum of things that I've systematized over the years, usually get them to sit down. It calms them. If they're raising their voice, you understand, broken record, different things like that.
Yeah.
And so I'll try to be supportive of the internal POI, meaning my employee or whatever, as far as the public face goes. Now, afterwards, I'll bring them in and reprimand them. But I'll try. So I have a saying that you praise in public and you reprimand in private.
Right.
And, it doesn't always work that way, right?
Right, absolutely.
Or sometimes it's just a game. Like, I'm going to get on that, to make them settle down.
Right.
And then later on, I'll be like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, it's a game, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's why I am coach.
Yeah.
It's a game, right? Life's a game. And if you look at it like that, there's different nuances.
Absolutely. When it comes to growing your business, is it better to focus on existing customers or grabbing outside customers?
Yes. And the next one you would ask me is,
Okay.
Sure. I mean, right? I mean, the customer or the client that you get in, if you're doing good by them, which you should be, they're going to repeat business, right? And that's much easier than to go out and try to find somebody new.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing both. So I tell people all the time, I'm the DJ. I'm working 3 turntables. My existing, customer, client base, all of that. And then I'm coming back and I'm saying, so there's the existing. What about the new that I can see? But what about way over here, what I call branding, in the macro? What about over here too?
Yeah.
People I don't even know yet.
Right.
Right. So I'm working 3 turntables. So I don't know about all the DJs out there, but if they're working 1 or 2 turntables, I'm like, I might have to jump in and be DJ Coach Little Z in the house.
Got it. Okay. So, knowing you and knowing how your business is working, things like that, some of your business have been in rough neighborhoods, rough areas, rough people.
Yeah.
And you have a very little, if any, problems with your customers.
Yeah.
And so I would attribute that to how you train your employees to deal with the customers.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that comes back to having a system. And so could you explain that system to them, what you do to, help the employee deal with customers?
Yeah. So I may have to come back and ask you a part of that question again, because there's a lot going on in my head about that.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm into prevention versus intervention.
Right.
So one of the brick and mortars we had was in the roughest, toughest area in Bakersfield.
Mm-hmm.
And so people don't know this. So I get to look real good, right?
Yeah.
But they don't know. I went and found the head gangbanger down there.
Mm.
And I said, hey, I need to talk with you.
Right.
And I said, we're going to treat you guys with respect and good. And there was a homeless population, all of that.
Yeah.
But I don't need any trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have trouble, I know I can't control these guys. But I know you can. Right? And so that was the first thing. I call it psychological warfare.
Okay.
It was like, I'm not admitting to this in any way, shape, or form, but when I was teaching special day in middle school, my class was perfect. I mean, it was just, everybody had an understanding. We had our normed agreements. They followed the rules. It was prevention. Everybody knew what was going on.
Right.
Well, this guy came in, I call him the 2%er, and he had the eyes of a Charles Manson. He was glazed over. And so he was in and out of jail. I mean, he was a hardened criminal by the time he was in 8th grade. So this is like 5 months into a certain year. And I couldn't get through to this kid for nothing, right? Okay. And so I was like, man, this guy has just turned up. Turned it upside down, right? We were in the trailer, by the way. He literally turned the trailer upside down. And so, I'm not proud of this moment, but it's very effective. So I coached as well. And so I went to the biggest kid in my class, Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. And I said, Marcus, I'm not telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But this guy right here is messing my whole world up.
Yeah.
And I said, he's probably not going to be here by the end of the month because
Right.
he'll be back in jail. But in the meantime,
Right.
I need some help.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did,
Yeah.
but I know that fool came in, that Charles Manson guy, he came in and was like this for the next 4 days until he went back to jail. Right?
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of preventative work that behind the scenes that people are
Right.
not aware of.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's
Okay.
that. Then the second part of it is what I would also call prevention, but on the bottom side is we do a lot of training.
Mhm.
And, we talk about, hey, it's probably not personal,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's not like you versus them, which we can all get like, right?
Yes.
What'd you say?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And so we have a training that we have a lot of trainings that we do.
Yeah.
We train around systems. Can you imagine
Yeah.
that? And that's one of the systems is how do you deal with difficult people or difficult, clients or whatever.
Yeah.
And how do you talk them down? As simple as the broken record. I understand you're upset, sir, but this is our policy. I understand, sir, but this is our policy.
Yeah.
I understand, sir. And usually by the third one, parents, whoever, they'll stop because they know you're not going away.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you stand your ground without backing up? Because like anything else, like an animal in the wilderness, if you show a little fear, they're going to attack.
Right. Yeah.
And so we teach them, even with some of the hardened criminals, that we're like, this is how we roll.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, you don't put yourself in harm's way if that's what it comes down to. But there's a lot of things you can do by handling yourself in the correct manner to prevent.
Right.
Right? And so then if you have to intervene, it just depends on the circumstance. So I do a lot of things with Cora where people have, I want to help people. Right?
Yeah.
So I get a lot of requests, a lot of requests.
Mhm.
So I'll answer. Well, one of the ones that, got the most views or whatever, I don't really look at views or whatever, but
Yeah.
it happened to come up that, hey, this is your, whatever they said.
Oh.
Somebody had asked, I can't remember the exact question, but it's something like, talk to me about a very difficult customer that you dealt with. And so one of the brick and mortars we had, I just happened to be in there. And the employee of ours, this gal, she was ex-gangbanger, but she was also one of my ex-athletes. And I mean, she was tough. Like
Yeah.
she would whip dudes,
Yeah.
right? Well, she comes up to me and she's like, hey, I got to go address this gal in the back. And I'm a little nervous. And I'm like, I'm thinking like, how big's this girl, right?
Yeah.
Because if she's nervous, I'm like, maybe I should be nervous. So she said, I want you to have my back. Because they know I won't go and enable them. I won't go do their job for them.
Right.
I'll support them, but I'm not going to go do your job.
Yeah.
Right? So we go around the corner. Gargantuan woman. Right? Made Barkley look like a little old fool, right?
Okay.
Like 6'5", just teesh. I'm like, oh boy, hopefully this goes well. Well, Cece, she's cool. She doesn't play. And she said, hey, you're going to put that the gal put a shirt or a couple of shirts. She was stealing. Right? So she goes, you're going to put that shirt back or we're going to have a problem. So that's one of the things, you have to read the situation.
Yeah.
Like with that gal, you're going to be like, okay, well, I'd like to have tea now. Now, I'd like to talk to you about the stuff that you haven't, right? Come on now.
Yeah.
This is a hardened criminal. So she let her have it. And that girl looked at Cece.
Yeah.
But you can tell with people usually
Yeah.
like, maybe I don't want to go there. So she starts yapping on the way out.
Right.
So I don't know. It just struck me bad that day.
Yeah.
And so I went after this gal.
Yeah.
And I was, usually I wouldn't do that.
Right.
But I went after her and started yapping. I said, oh, you're going to be a thief and an asshole?
Right.
I said, I don't think so. And so I started going and Cece grabs me, and I'm like, body, whatever. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You got to get them out of the store, but
Absolutely.
you can't really touch them, and stuff unless they're, going to, cause harm for themselves or others.
Right.
So I apologize to people in the store. Sorry,
Right.
But it just kind of got under my skin. I'm like, wait a minute. So you're a thief and an a-hole?
Right.
Like, that doesn't click with me.
Right. Doesn't.
So, there's kind of the alpha and the omega. Maybe I don't need to, what was the question I answered?
Yeah, everything.
Probably more than you would want. But But anyway, I'd tell that funny story because they seemed. I didn't think it was funny. I was
Right,
like,
you were.
yeah, I'm like, I got my adrenaline was up with gargantuan woman, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's funny.
So talking about, talked about bad customers, or not bad customers, but tougher
Yeah.
customers for sure. What is your favorite type of customer?
The people that buy a bunch. Nah. I like the ones that are a little inquisitive. You can tell like maybe they've done a little history or research or, on whatever it is that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so then they come in and they ask some real pertinent questions.
Yeah.
And, those are fun because then you get to really, especially as sales, which I think we'll do a video on straight sales. There's a way to sell and there's a way not to sell.
Yeah.
And so if they've already done all of that, then the selling part becomes even easier
Right.
because they already have some baseline knowledge. So to me, those are the guys that I really like, or the people that seem on the other end, they're just desperate and they don't know. They know they need something. They don't know what it is. You can tell they're frazzled, like we've talked about before, like the new mother.
Yeah.
Right? She needs a radio, or she needs something, but she's sleep deprived. She's kind of whacked out.
Right.
So to me, as long as I'm helping them, I'm cool with it. But those are the two extremes that I like the most.
Got it. So this is another story that I'd like you to tell the audience. So I know that you have a store here, and there's a couple stores, and then you have your other store in the corner.
Yeah.
And I believe someone stole from this store and had the audacity to come over and sell it to you at this store. Is that correct?
They tried to.
Or tried to, yes.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the other one, which was funny. So remind me if I forget that.
Okay.
But I thought you were going to talk about. So I'm in my own world sometimes, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm focused, doing my own thing. So I was walking from one store to another, and there was a guy, and he thought, and 'cause I walk pretty intently.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, like
Yeah.
I'm focused, and people are like, I'm gonna give him a wide berth type thing. And so this guy thought I was coming after him.
Oh.
And so I'm walking, just as I'm doing it, he stops and he's kind of got a look on his face, and I'm like, I'm not processing what's going on yet. Well, then Ricky, who was running the other store as a volunteer, he's come running down the street saying, "Hey!" And this guy is one-legged.
Oh, Ricky, right.
Yeah, Ricky's got one leg.
Yeah.
Hey, Ricky.
Yeah.
Right? Well, he knew this guy had stolen something.
Oh.
So, and again, this is a rough area. These
Yeah.
are gangbangers and everything else, right? So I'm already right there. And so Ricky kind of goes up and, what are you going to do? Have tea? Sometimes you got to get in their face a little bit. And,
Yeah.
it's a dance, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes you hug people and you should hit them. Sometimes you go in to kiss them and they back away. Sometimes, it's a dance.
Right.
And so, it finally dawned on me. I'm in like la la land, and I'm like, hey, you better give him that shirt back. And then now he's like, oh, I'm outnumbered, and what am I gonna do? And lucky for him, he did that, because I would have went to the head gangbanger and said, this guy, which I had done before.
Yeah.
We had a gal actually
Right.
that was completely out of control.
Yeah.
So I'm telling my guy, they call him Scooby.
Right.
And I said, Scooby, and I was trying to explain this gal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, she's wacky. She got this, that, and whatever. And he goes, oh, Mary.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know her name. He goes, oh, I'll talk. She never came back to our store ever. Right? Because that's, whatever he said to her.
Yeah.
Like my 8th grade stud kid, whatever, however that played out. But tell me, so I wanted to share that with you. 'Cause that's where I thought you were going.
Right.
But what was the actual?
It was Mary, that's right. Mary had stolen from the store, walked over and tried to sell it at this store. So could you explain that?
I wasn't there that day,
okay.
but from what I heard, that there was, and Ricky doesn't play.
Yeah.
He's one-legged, but he doesn't play.
Yeah.
He's funny, dude. He's strong.
Yeah.
I mean, he's able-bodied. I mean, you wouldn't think he is, but he's a sports guy. He's competitive. He's athletic. He's smart. He's all that.
Right.
Right. He doesn't play either.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't that gal actually. The one we're talking about is a different gal.
Okay.
And I guess it was so weird, but I guess this guy was kind of this gal's pimp.
Okay.
A little bit,
Uh-huh.
right? Well, she stole from the store, and then there was a Mexican restaurant right next to our thrift store, and so he went over. Well, Ricky goes into the to the restaurant. It's like, hey, you bet, right? He doesn't play around again. And so then this pimp guy or whatever, he was like, he could tell Ricky wasn't playing. He wasn't real happy. So he was like, okay, I'm sorry. He reprimanded this gal and give it back and, different things like that. But like I said, the other one you're talking about, when I went and talked to Scooby, we were real good to Scooby.
Yeah.
And he had a girlfriend, and we sold him stuff at a good price.
Yeah.
He was helping out. We scratched each other's
Right.
back. But yeah, that was, there's a bunch of stories down there that are, pretty interesting to hear about.
Sure.
But in the end, because we had systems, we had a good mindset, we had systems, and we had good people, it was a home run. And so we didn't get into, too much where we had to call the police or whatever. We just tried to deal with it the best that we could.
Got it. So now I want to talk about job versus career.
Yeah.
So first, what is the difference in your mind between a job and a career?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference in, doing the after school program. Most of those were jobs, right? And so a job is something that you go and do. Usually it's for a short period of time, So I'm not saying you can't make a career out of fast food.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you can't make a career, now you can, out of after school programming. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was a lot of college kids that needed a job. And then later on, it would become their career. Mm-hmm. So we actually hired one time like 70 people from a high school. And 20 of those wound up teaching in our district. And we hired them for the after school program. Mm. And so then they wound up doing that. So, to me, that's a job, is more short term or whatever. And a career is, something that's, you're going to do for pretty much your whole life or for a long time. Yeah. Even if it's at a different spot. I always tell people my classroom has changed, but my purpose and passion has not. So if I'm a nurse, I could be at this hospital, that classroom, on the west side for 20 years, but then maybe I move to the north side because, but it's still a nursing career.
Right. Got it. Well, that was going to be my second question is, can you make a job into a career? Would you say that, because, let's say working in a fast food, could you make that into a career?
Absolutely.
Or is it still just a long-term job?
I don't think so. I think a lot of those things can be a career. So let's take my wife, for example. She's the longest tenured person in the school district. Mm-hmm. And so she has 32 years, I think, in the school district. It started as a job for her. She was the aide for daycare. So there was the daycare, the head person, and then there was the aide. Okay. Well, just, as God would have it, this gal becomes a counselor because she had all of her credentials within the first month. So she gets a raise in the first month, right? She's 18 years old. Yeah. She becomes the top dog within there. Okay. So then there was a coordinator that did all of the daycares. Yeah. And I forget the exact terminology, but my wife was, the lead of that one school because there was at several schools. Well, then after 2 or 3 years, the gal left and another gal came in. Well, then in 2 months, this gal left, and my wife got she got the coordinating job. Okay. And then since then, she supervised several different programs and different things of that nature. Yeah. So, my wife isn't as intentional as I would be. Right. And so she just was like, I need a job and I like kids. Yeah. And it just turned out to be an amazing career for her. Right. Whereas me, I'm plotting and planning and systematizing, and when I'm in fourth grade, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to all the above. But in the end, that's why I tell people when you put it all in the smoothie, it comes out in the wash the way it probably should be. Right. Yeah.
That's funny. What is, I don't want to say the worst or something, but what is something that people might not think about, or something, let's say, using your wife for example,
You mean your mom?
Yeah, my mom. Yeah.
Don't be talking about your mama now.
Yeah. Let's say that as far as she went was being the daycare supervisor. Yeah. And didn't go any higher. Yeah. What is something that people don't think about when they get to, let's say, 40 or 50 years old versus someone that's in a career? What are some differences there? Does that make sense?
No, I need you to elaborate on that.
So, for someone that has a career, they might have a pension plan and different things like that, versus someone in a job might not. Yeah. So, what are those differences that people might not think about at, 20 years old because they really love this job?
Gotcha. Yeah, what you just said. Yeah. We call it benefits. Okay. So there's dental, there's vision, there's retirement, there's any and all the above. Right. I mean, there's many people out there right now in YouTube audience land that maybe they don't have insurance, health insurance, or they don't have a retirement, or they don't have dental or vision or insurances like that, and they know it. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
Same spot I'm in, right?
Yeah.
But now my wife, she has it, so we don't get 100% paid for, but we get the majority of it, and those expenses are continuing to go up and crazy. But I think you answered your own question. I call them benefits in the form of insurances and retirement. And just on a sidebar too, because I was in the financial services business for a while, and still do a little bit on the side, but not as much. Think about, again, tradition. Back to tradition. So you were going to work in corporate America until you were 65. You were going to get a corporate pension, and then you were going to die at 72, because that's what was going on, right? And so you would never outlive your pension. So all of the big companies like Coca-Cola and all of that, they had pensions. Most companies don't have pensions anymore. They don't even match a 401k, let alone a pension.
Right.
So we're living longer due to modern medicine, 15 to 20 years. So what are you going to do about that as far as retirement goes?
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna be working until you're 90?
Yeah.
Is Social Security going to be there? They say it's not. It's supposed to implode.
Yeah.
And even if it's there, is it enough?
Right.
So that would be another thing, like if you said, hey, what are the 2 takeaways today? That would be one of them too, is make sure that if you're self-employed or you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, make sure that you're doing something for long-term savings, because as people that have been around for a while would already know, there's ups and downs on this thing. You can make $100,000 in a month, and then you may not make anything for a couple months. Yeah. It can go up and down, and so you got to pull some of that out. Whereas a lot of people, I'm making $100,000 a month, but they're spending 110. Right. Then all of a sudden, in 3 years, they got a Mercedes, a boat, a yacht, 4 timeshares, and a partridge in a pear tree, and they're like in big trouble. Right. So I tell people, enjoy it.
Yeah.
But live well below your means.
Yeah.
You don't need to live way up here if you're making up here. You can, and it still can be a great living for you.
Absolutely. Got it. So when it comes to having I just lost my train of thought. Hold on. Because when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's true, because I know a lot of people that are like that.
Well, let's ask you. How old are you?
23.
23. Do you have retirement? Long-term retirement?
I do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we tell people. It's like having your first child. Mm-hmm. There's never a good time to have a child. You just have the child and you make it work.
Yeah.
You burp it, you diaper it, you do all that. It's the same thing as long-term retirement. Mm-hmm. And I used to tell people when I was hot and heavy in that, so I don't care what you start with. Start with $25 a month, and then next year I'll come and talk to you, and you can put in 50. Right? Yeah. Because do you make more money now than you did 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Do you make more money now than you did 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Will you make more money in 5 years than you do now?
Yes.
Right. So the point is starting the habit.
Right.
So now you're putting in probably $100 a month or so.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're good with savings. Yeah. But that's not long-term retirement.
No.
And I know you have your emergency fund. Yeah. And I know you used to tithe. I don't know if you do anymore, but we lived on a 60-40 rule, right? So tithe 10% of your money, emergency fund 10% of your money, save 10% so that you can go and do stuff with it, and then we would have save it to where you can't touch it, right. And then we had the high return accounts, where we would go for it a little bit and see what happens. So that's how you were able to break it down, and that's what I think everybody should do. But if you don't have that long-term one, that set it and forget it, I think that's a big mistake. Yeah, I know a lot of my friends that make big money. They're going to be working until they're 75, or if they get kicked out of, some of them are business owners and entrepreneurs, but some of them are employees. They may want to kick you out eventually. They're going to be at Walmart, right? Which maybe that's a great job, but I'm sure it doesn't pay tons. Right. Saying, hey, go here, do that. And if that's what you want to do, if that's by choice, going back to tradition, great. If it's choice, cool.
Right.
But if it's not choice, and that's what I think is important as well.
Yeah.
But we're getting a lot of nuggets
Yeah.
today. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
So that was the question. So I just remembered the question.
Oh, I helped you. You're welcome
yes.
on that.
When it comes to reaching a plateau,
Yeah.
whether that's in a job or a career, what are some telltale signs that you finally reached that you can't go any higher, you can't do anything more to get higher?
Well, are you speaking financially and positional power, or both and?
We'll say both and, but originally it was just positionally.
No, positionally. Well, I mean, look at where I was at. So I think at one time I was probably top 10 in my school district.
Okay.
So there was the superintendent, and there was a couple assistant superintendents, and then there was, some I don't know what they called them, but coordinators or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there was my position, which was a program manager.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was maybe 10, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Right. And I was making a good $100,000 a year with benefits and, the whole package.
Yeah.
And so where else do I have to go at that time?
Mm-hmm.
I already have 223 employees that I'm in charge of.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I've told you this before. My older brother, who's multi-millionaire,
Yeah.
he's like, dude, did you know you're the hardest working guy that I know? You work 12 hours a day and you're getting paid for 8.
Yeah.
And you have 223 people. Did you know that's like a small company of like Fortune 500 company? And the CEO of a company like that would be making in the millions.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking, because I never thought about money. I just thought about helping people.
Right.
But, as you get older and you go, oh, my kid's going to college and,
Yeah.
different things like that. I didn't want for more. Like, I didn't necessarily need a nicer house. I still buy, this one's a little bit more expensive because of the load. But, I buy $5 shirts or whatever. That's probably a little bit expensive. But you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't about that, but you just start thinking differently into your 30s and 40s of like what's going on out there.
Right. Got it. So then how would you tell financially that you brought that up, that you reached a plateau? Would it be the same or?
Well, look, I tell people all the time. So when I was like 22, 23, I had a long-term relationship with your mom. So we've been dating or married for almost 40 years. I met her when I was 15.
Okay.
And she was 13. And we've been dating or married since. I mean, off and on, different weird stuff, but for the most part, we've been dating or married ever since, right? Yeah. So when you take a look at that, and can you ask that question again? I'm sorry. I went into La La Land too over here. I'm getting heat stroke.
Yeah. Sorry,
audience. I do that sometimes. I get going. The money part.
Financially reaching a plateau.
Yeah, and so we were, I was just finishing the credential program. I could only work 2 hours a day. So I got up at 4 a.m. I went and I did daycare for 2 hours.
Yeah.
My wife's working full time as the, whatever it's called, the head person of the daycare. I forget the title.
Okay.
Right? We were making $24,000 a year between the two of us. And she was making like 18 of it.
22.
Yeah, right? Because I'm doing that little job.
Right.
I went to school for 8 hours.
Yeah.
I did track on a scholarship that took 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
Right. So I'm working 18, and I had 18 units. So I'm working 18 hours a day.
Right.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I gotta rinse and repeat. But we didn't want to be like everybody else. Mm-hmm. So we saved $25,000, which is a crap ton of money back in
1900s.
Yeah, the caveman, right? I think it was the early 90s is what it was. But, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to be like our friends who were getting married before us. They all living in apartments. We said, no, we're going to live in a house and we're going to buy all of our stuff, all of our furniture and all that, So that's what we did.
Yeah.
So it's a long way of saying we made $25,000. We had a house and 2 cars.
Uh-huh.
Then we made $100,000 and we have a little nicer house, but not much better, and 2 cars. And then you have, where we're at now, and we still have, we actually went the other way. We said, we don't want a nice car or any of that stuff. We want to go the other direction because it's smarter.
Yeah.
Right? So when you take a look at that, where do you plateau? I don't know. Most people, they plateau and yet they're still spinning up here.
Uh-huh.
So I think it depends on your profession. But as an entrepreneur and as a businessman, there is no plateaus. So as an employee, you're gonna stop somewhere.
Right.
I mean, the highest paid guy in our district at the time, the superintendent, he was probably making $120,000 a year, which was a crap ton of money 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what they make now, probably 170, 180, I don't know, which is a great wage, right?
Yeah.
But you're still here.
Can't go any higher.
Yeah, business owners, you can double, triple, quadruple, 10 times, 100 times that because you can just keep on keeping on.
Right. Okay. Got it. Now, so we're gonna say from the time you were, when you first had your first job to the time you were about 18, 19.
Yeah.
What was
You mean for 18 years? I think
Yeah.
I think I came out the womb and my mom and dad put me to work.
Yeah. What was your favorite job?
I don't look at it like that. Every experience that I had, whether it was a job or not, I felt like was, even at a very young age, it was helping me to hone my skills for the next job, so to speak.
Got it.
So when I was, 5 and doing chores around the house and getting paid,
Yeah.
that was my, the most fun job, right? And not really.
But yeah.
And then when I had the 3 paper routes when I was somewhere between 8 and 10 years old, now to me that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Everybody else was like, hey, you got to get up early and all that. But to me, it was competitive. How fast could, because my brother had his 3 paper routes too. So we'd get up in the morning, who could do the papers the fastest. And then, there's little nuances in there like, when it was raining, you didn't put them in rubber bands, which is how we did it.
Yeah.
You put them in the plastic, which was a whole nother thing. And then we used to race to get them out and then race back,
Yeah.
So to me, that was fun. I say I probably had 3 jobs my whole life. I think school's a job. It's 8 hours for most people. I had sports my whole life, which is, 2 to 4 hours a day, as you know.
Yeah.
And then I had my chores or an actual job, right? So for me, all of those things were experiences. And a lot of times in hindsight, I mean, I'm not thinking about at 5, like, oh, when I'm 40, how I'm learning to be competitive with this is going to help me up my store. But, it did.
Yeah.
And so to me, we just did. That's the way we were raised. And both my parents were farmers.
Yeah.
Or came from a farming background,
Yeah.
And 12-hour day was like, did we do anything today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I couldn't twist your arm to give me one of your favorites.
Man, favorite job. I mean, it's probably coaching. I enjoyed coaching you, even though I wanted to strangle you most of the time. But I enjoyed that. That was, amazing to see how far somebody could go. Maybe not even trying to maximize their full potential, but still a high maximization. I mean, you're third in the nation going against the only 2 guys that beat you were a 2-time national champ and a 1-time national champ. It's like Mahomes or Brady this weekend. Well, I mean, neither one is going to like to lose, but if you're going to lose, you might as well lose to one of those studs.
Right.
And that's what you did your senior year when you broke all those records. So, I enjoyed any of the coaching, especially the stories, but I wasn't a big I enjoyed the job. I enjoyed like a story or the nuances or different things of that nature.
Right.
That's what I enjoyed more than, I enjoyed this job.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So talking about, we're going to move to salespeople or, salesmen, saleswomen. Why do you think they have such a bad rap? Right? I mean, you're like, I got a salesman at the door. Why do you think they get a bad rap?
Because they're donkeys.
Okay.
Right? So I tell my guys, I said, if you want to be a pushy salesperson, sayonara. Right? Because I'm not into that. Because really, those people are into it for one thing. Yeah, that's right. It's a transactional situation. I'm gonna sell.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, if you're that person, then you're not going to be around anyway. And part of selling to me is taking care of them. If whoever you sold for. So as an example, so I'm selling life insurance, but I'm a self-employed independent contractor. I had 100 different insurance companies that I could sell, right? So, but I always told my people, I said, don't call me first. Call the company first, because they'll have more answers for you.
Yeah.
But if the company's the donkey, then you call me, and I'll go and talk with them on your behalf.
Right.
Right. So, the sales there, and in life insurance, which is what I primarily sold, as a supplementary retirement plan.
Yeah.
Great plans, by the way.
Yeah.
It was kind of a set it and forget it, because it wasn't like property and casualty. I would never do that insurance because, this claim, that claim, that. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
That's pretty time intensive.
Yeah.
So I think that it depends, what kind of salesperson you are. I'm competitive, but I'm not going to be a donkey about it. But I like to win, right? It's a competitive situation. Either you're going to sell me on why you're not going to buy what I'm trying to sell you, or I'm going to sell you on the other end of it.
Right.
So to me, it's a competitive situation.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I got an advantage over you. Number one, I won't sell anything that I don't 100% believe in.
Right.
People used to tell me, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like when I do insurance, I was so excited about this plan because I researched, I'm a researcher.
Yeah.
If need be, right?
Yeah.
They don't call me anal boy for nothing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get the best product for me, but I also want to get the best product for somebody else. I don't want to go out and be historically incorrect.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was born and raised in this town, and even if I wasn't, that's the way I was raised. So, you go out and you can push or touch without shoving. And I'll give you an example of this. And this was more than I did for this is a sad story, actually. So usually I would go out and share with people, and I felt like my presentation was a slam dunk. I'm like, dude, if you don't buy this, again, if it's 25 feet, whatever, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a no-brainer.
Right.
We used to call it immediate protection while securing your future. Right? And I used to tell them, I said, look, God forbid something happens to you.
Yeah.
But if something happens to you, and if you're not the primary, breadwinner, but you are, in today's day and age, two people to make a household usually.
Right.
I said, if you pass away, I said, is your wife going to be a mental and emotional wreck? And he's like, yeah. And I said, and what about your kids? They're like, yeah. I said, well, why should they also be a financial wreck? And so, I gave it to him, right? And he's like, nah, whatever. Well, I didn't used to call those people back. Right?
Yeah.
But this guy was a pretty good friend of a friend.
Okay.
And so to try to make the long story short, I called him like 3 times, and I never did that.
Yeah.
I was pretty much one and done, and then I'd put you on a tickler file, and I'd tell you, look, if you don't want to hear from me ever again, just tell me, no, never, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But I said, I realize life's about timing. What you think that you need today or don't need, you may need later. And so I wanted to always help people.
Yeah.
But with this guy in particular, I called him once a month for 4 months. And as life would have it, there was a gangbanger that stole a car, and he was being chased by the police. And there was an overpass. My guy was parked, and the guy's going 100 miles per hour, hits him and kills him. And so, I felt terrible, but I felt good that I at least really tried to push him. Yeah. Not be pushy, but push him, nudge him, not shoving him.
Right.
To say, hey, I think you need this for your family. And they wound up being a wreck. They had to move back in with his mom and dad, the kid. It's a mess anyway.
Right, yeah. So,
to me, it depends on what kind of salesperson it is. But, and it's terrible. If people tell me no, I say, is that no never? Or is that no not right now?
Right.
That's what I ask them. And if they say that's no never, I don't bother them again.
Yeah.
I'm done. If they say no not right now, I say good, I'll put you on a little system, a little tickler file I have. It'll send you out an email once a month, or a text once a month, or something of those natures.
Yeah.
Or I'll have my guys send you a DM or something, or maybe it's once every 3 months. I said, we're not going to hound you.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to twist your arm so that you can buy this product or whatever.
Yeah.
So, pushy salespeople, I'd say donkeys.
Donkey.
Yeah, they're donkeys.
I've heard you say this before, but hopefully you can explain it. You've said that everyone is a salesman or a saleswoman.
Absolutely.
And why do you say that, or why do you believe that?
Simple, right?
Okay.
So, we salespeople get a bad name, and I used to think the same thing when I was teaching. Like, salespeople, Well, then as you get into it or you get older, you view like perception is reality.
Yeah.
You view things differently. And somebody told me, one of my mentors in the insurance business said, "You're a great sales." This was early on.
Yeah.
"You're a great salesman." I said, "No, I'm not," because it was negative to me even at that time.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, when you hear salesman, what do you hear?"
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh, they're blah blah blah." He goes, "Nah." He said, "They're influencers." And he said, "You're a great influencer." He said, "You lead 223 people in the after school program. You lead this team of 40 kids. You lead."
Yeah.
Right? And that just completely just twisted my brain on what it was.
Yeah.
So as I started thinking about it, because now I have a new perception,
Right.
I was like, dude, you know how many sales jobs are going on in a day just with one person?
Okay.
About 4 billion, right? Even with my 2-year-old, even when you were 2,
Yeah.
I'm either going to sell you on why you're going to sleep at 9, or you're going to sell me on why you're not.
Right.
There's no happy mediums there,
Yeah.
right? So there's sales jobs going on all the time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so to me, it's something that people look at in a negative way because of pushy salespeople.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a great skill set that you better have as a human being, let alone as a business person or as an entrepreneur.
Right. Absolutely. When it comes to being a young salesman in the whatever it is, real estate, well, like you said, everyone's a salesman, but for their career,
Yeah.
their job as a salesman, car salesman, real estate, life insurance, what is the best advice you got from someone, or something you realized later on working it, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, well, quit selling benefits and features.
Okay.
What I mean by that is, and we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
using the example of a young mother who's trying to get a radio to get music to be able to be played,
Yeah.
so that their kid will go to sleep,
Mhm.
because they say music soothes the savage beast. I listen to Frozen all day. I'm all hyper,
Yeah.
and I listen to ballads, right? Calms me down, right?
Yeah.
And so what most inexperienced or young salespeople would do is they want to sell.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. People can read that, right? Like I have to have this seller I don't eat today.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to be there. You know that as a runner. If you're all
Yeah.
tensed up, man, that didn't feel good on my neck. Dang. No wonder they say don't do that, right? I worked out today. I did traps. My freaking neck's killing me. But anyway, you don't want to be tensed up. So what's your mindset, right? And I say that's where you start pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I have to have this sell. No, my mindset was I already researched this product or this service or whatever. I already know you need it. So my mindset, check, right?
Yeah.
And then get organized. Well, what do you got to have to get organized around? Well, I got to have my closing application. I got to have my, my list that I give them. You go to the mall and it says you are here,
Yeah.
and this is where you're going, right?
Right.
So when you build a tract home, they don't give you lists.
Right.
Yeah, they just go. But you build a custom home, those guys are cool because you know exactly where they're at and are they on schedule and all that.
Yeah.
So, again, you take, when you asked earlier
Yeah.
about what's your favorite job, I just learned that from, building a custom home.
Right.
So, right? So you learn stuff. If you got to have a learner's mentality.
Yeah.
So, and ask the question again because I got from my doggone deal. I know.
The advice for a young
Yeah.
salesman.
So there's your mindset. Get organized around that to where you're like, I got my closing papers ready to go,
Yeah.
right? So then you have the transaction, which is where everybody messes up and they sell benefits and features. So if I'm a car salesman and you come in, I see you looking at a Fiat or whatever.
Yeah.
Do they have Fiats?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking at a Fiat. I don't know what a Fiat is. So you're looking at a Dodge truck,
Okay.
right? So then I would walk up and I would start selling the benefits and features. Oh, look at this. You got this little ramp for your leg to get on to get in the truck. You've got treble and you got bass. You got this nice stereo. You got leather seat, right? All this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I've already blown it,
Mm-hmm.
right? What I should do is try to figure you out from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was walking out to you as the car person, were you only looking at trucks or were you also looking at vehicles that had of 2 doors or 4 doors? Were you only looking at a certain type of truck, like a big, I don't know what they call them, but the half tons? Or were you looking at, so I'm already figuring you out as I go. I call it playing king and queen of the world. So I'm playing king and queen of the world, and I'm a caption looker. I'm saying, what is this guy trying to accomplish? Right. But I'm not going to assume anything, but I'm going to try to figure it out. But I'm just going to ask you, hey, bud, how you doing? What are you trying to accomplish today? Right. Oh, I'm just looking. And I say, okay, are you really just looking, or are you interested in buying? And then they'll say, because I used to go on the lot and I was just looking. They're trying to sell me something. I'm like, dude, I'm 90 days before I'm going to buy something. Yeah. And if you push on me, then I'm not going to get your card. And when I come back, you're not going to be my sales guy. Yeah. But if you listen to what I'm saying, I'm going to take your card and I'm going to be that rare bird that calls you when I come back. Right. But they're not used to that. Well, that's not my problem. Right. You're dealing with me. You're not dealing with Joe. Yeah. So I'm going to find out what's going on. And so let's say that you're saying I'm just, and you say, no, I'm just looking. I'm going to say, great. Do you want an extra set of eyes? I can look with you, or I'll walk away if you'd like to be by yourself because you're just looking. Which one would you like? And let's just play along here.
I think that I'll just look by myself today.
Great. So here's my card. If you have any questions at any time, day or night, as long as before 10 p.m. and 6 in the morning, you give me a call. But other than that, I'm going to leave you be.
Okay.
So what happens is that what am I saying to you? I'm asking you, what do you want? And I'm giving you what you want. Right. And so now you're like, man, this guy's pretty cool. He's not like every other pushy salesman trying to sell me a car. Yeah. You were going to say something.
I was saying, well, what about let's go inverse now. Yeah, would you look with me?
Yeah. Where do you want to go first? What? And then I go a little deeper. Like, I saw you looking at trucks, but I also saw you looking at the Charger over here. Right. What were you really looking at? Or what was something that, caught your eye? Or was it just general, or was there something specific? So I call it the not the kid in the candy store. Okay, but it's the kid where you go, do you want the chocolate with nuts or the chocolate without nuts? We're not going to talk about the chocolates and the sour whatevers and the sweets and the hard candy and all that. Right. I know that you were looking at 2 different cars, so I'm going to say that. Was it the Charger or this? And I might say a third alternative, or was there something else? But I'm going to find out, bottom line, what are you looking for? So let's play along.
Well, I got a newborn coming in, so I'm trying to figure out, I would like the Charger, but I know that's only 2-door versus this, is 4-door, and it allows me to have a, baby seat. Do you think I could fit a baby seat in the back of the Charger, or, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely you can, but you won't like it. So, but instead of me talking you through it, I want you to get in and out of the back of that car 10 times right now. And about 3 in, you're like, okay, I got it. Yeah. I need a 4-door. Right. So the best learning is natural learning. Yeah. So I said, don't let me tell you about it. You go experience, because remember, they're already looking at you cross-eyed, like, you're a salesperson. Yeah. So I'm going to say, you're not going to like it, but you experience it on your own, and you'll figure out real fast before 10. You're like, screw this. Yeah. Right. So now we've eliminated half the field, but have I eliminated it? No, you eliminated it for yourself. Right. So now you're like, man, I really like this guy because he's not pushing anything on me. He's just steering me in the right direction. Right. So now we come over and say, okay, so is there any color that's him? So I can go on and on with this, right? So you probably want an automatic, not a standard shift. Is there any color? So let's say you're 20 years old or 22 years old. You're having your first kid. You say, yeah, I want red. And I'm gonna say, hey, you can do what you want with a red, but let me just give you my experience. And by the way, I don't make any more money whether it's red, black, green, or yellow, just so we're clear. I said I had 4 tickets in my red car in 7 months. I've had 0 in my black and gray cars. Right. So I'm guessing that kid's going to cost you a little money. You probably don't want to spend an extra $2,000 on tickets, even if you're only going 5 miles per hour over, because you're going to stand out in the cops too. Right. So I'm just going to go with this back and forth, and by the end, we're going to find something that suits your needs, financially and otherwise. To me, that's a great salesperson. And so, benefits and features, no. Find solutions to their challenges or their problems, but you have to talk with them. You have to interact to find out what are they really trying to accomplish. Yeah. And then if they're trying to accomplish something that you think is off base, like a red 2-door whatever, you say, hey, I'll sell you whatever. It's your money. Yeah. But I'm just telling you, or you show them, get in and out of there 10 times. Or if you can't, go get the cop, then, you would tell them the story, what I call a touch point.
Got it. My question was going to be, what makes you a great salesman? I think you just explained that. So I will change that into, why do you think you were like that to become such a great salesman? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that, just like you had said, from think about what we are, a collection.
Mm-hmm.
We have our certain genetics and DNA.
Yes.
So I'm a type A hyper personality.
Yes.
God gave me that as just genetics.
Right.
Then you have your environment, the way you're raised. Well, I was raised in a Greek family. If you've ever watched the movie 300, that's how we were raised. It was competitive. It was in your face. We were debating and talking trash and, just super ultra competitive. All athletes, highly accomplished. Mom doesn't seem like, she's all that in a bag of rocks. That's what my mom says instead of a bag of chips. She's 74. But she's competitive. She just does it in a different way.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll tell you in your face I'm competitive, and she'll be like slicing you up as she's smiling at you, So everybody has a different way to do that. John Stockton, he wasn't in your face, but he was slicing you up.
Yeah.
Versus, Rodman and Barkley are in your face telling you. Either way, it's all good. But, so I think that, you have your genetics and DNA, then you have your environment, and then you have circumstances and experiences that will heighten or lessen whatever it is that you have already.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just care about people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me a great salesman.
Yeah.
So I if we were talking about insurance, I know everybody needs insurance unless you're older and you have a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. Then why do you need insurance? Right. Although I can make an argument for it that would say, because I've had to deal with this in one of the other businesses that we did, estate planning.
Right.
That's a mess.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody talk about emotion. You got 3 brothers or 2 brothers, whatever, and that's why we did estate planning. There wasn't a lot of money in it for us.
Right.
But we were helping. The last one I did, just on a side note, the lady come up to me at the end in tears and goes, "I didn't know how emotional I was." Yeah. Because we told her, like, if you want to come hang out, you can, but I don't recommend it. Yeah. Just don't come. Just let us take care of it. And she was very thankful that we did that, because she came for like 5 minutes one day and she just had to leave. So, when you come from that spot of just helping people, and then you're smart enough and thoughtful enough and take enough ownership in the process of learning your trade or your traits, then how can you not be good at it?
Right.
If I care about you first, and pretty much you only, although I like win-win situations, right? But if that's my primary, I've walked away from a $50,000 bill in my pocket before because it wasn't best for the client.
Right.
Right? Now, I'll tell you, that same client brought me $250,000 worth of business later. That's not why I did it, though.
Right.
But usually if you're good to people and you're doing right things for right reasons, it'll come back to you. And if it doesn't on this earth, it will somewhere else probably. And if it doesn't, who cares? Because there's no greater thrill, in my opinion, to be able to help somebody, especially if they were here and you helped them to get here.
Right.
That's a big deal in my book.
Yeah. Who was the best salesperson you've ever dealt with, excluding yourself?
Oh, I can't even remember. My wife says, "Do you remember that?" And I go, "Was it more than 3 seconds ago?" Because I just move on.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who was I'm not saying the best, but my dad was a good sales guy. He's the one that taught me. He used to do old wood shaft golf clubs.
Yeah.
And he ran the West Coast. And he used to sit and make us watch him negotiate. Mm-hmm. And I hated him for it. Like, sorry, Dad, love you. Yeah. Right? But, when you're a kid, you're just like stink mouth and stink eye. You're just like, you were never that like that with me, were you? And I'm just like that punk. But anyway, another great story. I got a few.
Yeah.
So my buddy, when I was like 20, he was an old track buddy of mine.
Yeah.
He lived in Turlock, which is
I'm going to stop you because we're going to go into negotiating. So I don't want you to spoil that story.
Oh, okay.
So, but I know where you're going to go with that.
Okay.
So,
yeah, but that was fun.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that because that's in not the next one, but the next one after that.
Dang it.
Yeah.
You've got this planned out?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you prep too.
I
You
did.
got a good mindset. You get organized around your mindset, then you solution showcase.
Yes.
And then you collect data and you thoughtfully advance.
Yep.
My brother.
So we're gonna talk about business costs. What are some of the more uncommon business costs that people probably don't think about when starting their business? Or for maybe not for people because can't speak for them, but for you personally.
Yeah, I don't know about uncommon, but it's a progression, right? So you do a lot of things on your own, like everything
Yeah.
at first, right? You are the secretary, you are the CEO, you are the janitor. I mean, you're cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, you're negotiating a $100,000 deal, right at first. So you know that's where that's at. And then it's not uncommon, but it's like, man, when for not every business, and every business is different, but for a lot of businesses, the payroll
Yeah.
and how expensive it is.
Right.
You're like, man, you look up and you're like, I just spent a large chunk of money this month, and 80% of that went to payroll.
Yeah.
Now for some businesses, maybe if you buy planes and sell it, might be inventory. Right. But so I don't think, what was your exact word that you used? Uncommon?
Uncommon, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that those things are necessarily uncommon, but they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now, if you do want to get into uncommon, it would be you start bringing in chefs, you bring in fitness people, you bring in, a maid or a cleaner of the business or janitorial service, or that's probably a little bit more common. But some of those other things are probably outside of most purviews in regards to entrepreneurs and business people, because they can't afford to do that, or a haircut person, somebody that comes in and cuts your hair every 2 weeks, or a massage therapist. Some of those types of things that once you get established, that you may want to do because you're providing employment or money to as a self-employed independent contractor or freelancer, and you're also getting benefits for you and your household.
Got it. I don't know anything about the haircut every 2 week thing, but everything else I understood.
Yeah. Did you guys see this? Man, I that's called psychological warfare. I was working on him in YouTube land, and it worked. I got mine cut yesterday. Is it lopsided?
Now, what was so when you first opened your own business?
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing that you had to pay for? That you're like, oh crap, I didn't think about that.
Again, it was just the payroll. So last time we had talked about one of a really good restaurant business of one of my ex-agents.
Yeah.
Mom and dad were bringing in $1 million, but they were only netting $50,000 between the two of them, and they're working 12 hours a day, each of them. Right. So the net was like, oh my goodness, it was basically whatever. What do they call it? Sweat labor or whatever.
Or sweat, not sweat equity, but sweat labor.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so, because what was the exact question? I'm sorry.
The biggest shock for when you opened up your own business.
Yeah.
The biggest payment, you're like, oh.
Yeah, no, just that it's just a lot of money that goes out to the people, and that's why when I was a teacher and they go, small business is the heartbeat of America. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I'm like, I'm a cool teacher.
Yeah.
I'm a school teacher, and I'm gonna teach your kid how to shoot a basketball. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Now when I started my business, I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Because, you're not just employing, if you think about it, you're not just employing your employees or the freelancers or, but how, we always talk about the pebble in the water and how far do the ripples go.
Yeah.
But, what about the people that are what I call the externals, the CPAs, the janitorial service, right? So you have your internals, then you have your externals. And then what else is it doing? Because if I'm making money, then I'm also spending money at that doctor's office or Albertsons or the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
So, when you don't think like that, because you're just trying to teach a kid how to, put his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak, shooting a basketball, you don't understand and know that.
Right.
And so, when people talk about, like taxes on the business owners and they overtax, you're just basically, most people aren't going to have a business and not try to grow the business, right? They're going to try to grow it. Well, if they have extra money because they're not paying as much in taxes, that's just one more person that gets employed with them, probably.
Right.
Maybe not, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There's a good chance of it.
Yeah. Got it. And so, talking about taxes and different things like that.
Yeah.
When you first open your business, do you think it's smart to hire someone to do the bookkeeping and different things like that, or do you think that it's better to do it in-house and then as you grow, then go and find someone?
I would say that's the one thing. Do it as soon as you can. But again, at first, you're not going to probably be able to afford it. Right. So you take it to whatever TurboTax or another endorsement, TurboTax or whatever.
Yeah.
Your wife does it, right? Or something. But I would say that it's something that I find interesting. So we complain about paying 3% to a realtor.
Yeah.
But we'll pay 10 or 20% to a waitress.
Yeah.
The realtor's working their butt off.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the waitress or the waiter isn't.
Right.
But yeah, one's an hour and one's, days and sometimes weeks and months.
Right.
And so I always find that curious. Like, I believe in paying the people for what they're worth. And like my current CPA.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
I mean, that dude's worth every penny, man. He's smart. He's thoughtful. He takes ownership. He's conservative, which I really like.
Yeah.
And, because my previous one was a donkey. So it's like, if you can find a good one.
Right.
And I know with my previous one, I was telling my wife and my mom, I said, this person's a donkey. And they didn't want to listen.
Yeah.
Because I can see things usually ahead of schedule.
Right.
Right. There's telltale signs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you can get any kind of professional that can help you, especially around money and being because my CPA is a strategic partner too.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. That's not the other person I had was just a CPA or accountant. This person, we talk. What do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Right. Got it. And so I would think that with running a business, budgeting is a pretty big thing, and making sure you're right on budget. How do you budget so well, and what does that look like for you? Do you do it on a monthly basis, a yearly basis, a weekly basis?
Well, I think first we should probably discuss what a budget is, kind of how does the money work in simple terms.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into profit and loss and all that, but just simple terms around budget. Mm-hmm. So a budget is what you think will happen, and it should be, for the month, quarter, biannually, and yearly, right? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Now, things can change,
Yeah.
But the budget this is what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
Now, the reality is that sometimes you can go over budget, sometimes you're under budget. Mm-hmm. But, the budget's important. So it's like I tell people, go look in the mirror and you'll see if your face is blemished, mm-hmm. right? That's what the budget does, is it allows you to know, hey, I look pretty good, right? This month I budgeted for $50,000 and I spent $49,000. You're like, woohoo!
Yeah.
Right? There's other months you're budgeting for $50,000 in the month and it winds up being $70,000. And you're like, stupid, right? You're like, how did that happen? Right? But the budget allows you to, like the training wheels. Mm-hmm. You know what? By the way, can you teach your brother how to ride a freaking bike, please? The training wheels, it makes you kind of stay within the parameters, mm-hmm. right? I don't know if this is true, so I could be full of bull, but some of these reality TV, I don't watch them, so that's why I don't know if this is true or not. Yeah. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but some of those people, they don't have any budget, and they're spending like $50,000 a month on stupid stuff. Yeah. Right? You don't have a budget. It's kind of unlimited.
Right.
To me, no. I don't even care if you're making, $10 million a month. Right. Right? If that's your net, you just, come on, right? Like, do you really need a $4 billion purse? Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to judge, teach everybody's own, but I think that a budget keeps you in parameters, just like a tricycle, or when you go to Disneyland, they have a little thing in between, so you can't run over into the grass and stuff. Yeah. And I think that's what's important about a budget. And then the actuals, your expenses, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
So you have a budget,
Right.
and then you have your income or your revenues,
Yeah.
and then you have your actual expenses, and then you reconcile it at the end, and then that's going to go over to profit. There's all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
But I think a budget's critically important. It's like anything else, prevention.
Right. And then for you personally, and how you run your budget,
Yeah.
do you think it's the best way overall for everyone to, or do you think it's just best for you?
Well, I mean, I think, I don't know. Maybe there's 400 ways to do a budget, but in my mind, in the end, you have to kind of line out what you think's going to go out.
Yeah.
And so, your group A may be group D for me or whatever, but in the end, it's like I tell people about, a smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it all in there, it's just all in there.
Got it.
Right. So I don't think that there's necessarily, that this budget's better than that budget or whatever, but you got to get all possibilities on there. And then what I do is I'm a clumper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I clump stuff together. My CPA's like, you can't clump. You got 18 businesses. You got your own personal.
Yeah.
But I like to clump because my brain, I don't need to think about 401 things if I can think about one.
Right.
Right. And so hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, it does. So now we'll talk about negotiating.
Yeah. Oh, you mean when you said,
yes.
put on the brakes?
Yes, we won't get into that story just yet, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
So you briefly talked about who taught you how to negotiate.
Yeah.
And the question is twofold.
I can't remember one.
Yeah. What is important about negotiating, and when did you realize it?
You may have to hit me back up on the second part.
Yeah,
but
got
part A. So, what was the first one again? See, I can't even. Yeah.
What is important about
Winning at all costs.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's what I call play king and queen of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So begin with the end in mind, reverse engineer, backwards plan.
Yeah.
I always used to tell, so in my other profession, when I was an employee, it's like 80-20 women to men.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 223 employees and 170 of them are women.
Yeah.
And guess what all those women were doing at that time? They're getting married.
Right.
And so we used to talk about it a lot, backwards planning. I said, let's think about your wedding,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so where do you want to be? At the very end,
Yeah.
they're like Hawaii or like wherever, right?
Right.
And I said, let's start backwards planning from there.
Right.
Do you want him to carry you across the threshold? Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive? Do you want a nice hotel? You want to sleep in the woods? So we would brainstorm around that.
Yeah.
And then we'd work it back. Okay, here's the actual ceremony. Okay, what about the reception? Here's the ceremony. Here's, how you get people there. Here's, and then at the very end, you got to write thank yous for all your, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So I have no idea why I just told that story, but there's a point to it. What was the doggone question again?
What is important about negotiating?
Yeah, so begin with the end in mind.
Uh-huh.
Understand where you're at. So I kind of mentioned that earlier. So if what I'm wanting is, let's say, an item for $100, just to make it easy.
Yeah.
Right? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't pay $100.01.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, I'm done. Like, that's it.
Right.
Negotiations done. Now, I'm not going to try to get it for $100.
Right.
Right? But I also don't want to rip anybody off on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I got to be careful because sometimes it's just a game for me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, well, I could pay $110, but it's a game. And if I thought that was a fair price for both of us, then I would do that. But I wouldn't go into it at $100. Then I would have went in at $110. I pretty much know like what's fair and what's not before I ever get there.
Yeah.
So I think it's like the budget. It's like prevention. It's like all of that.
Right.
I think that's the key part to the negotiation. And then you're not emotional about it.
Right.
I've got if you look around, I've got 10 billion cards and sports memorabilia. I'm not emotional about not one.
Mm-hmm.
I could care less.
Yeah.
Right? I could care less about any of it. It's not emotional to me. And it wasn't emotional when I purchased it.
Right.
It's fun. It's something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's my entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do those other things that some people do. It's
Right.
my form of entertainment. It just happens to be, I sell it too. So it's, it's just the way I roll.
Got it. And so then the second portion is when or what age did you guys, hey, negotiating is actually important.
the story you stopped me at.
Oh, okay. All right. So then we won't get into that. Okay.
We'll put that on hold. But to me, I think I was 20, where I was like, I'm sure you realize as you're younger,
Right.
like you're like, Mom,
Yeah.
can I go to bed at 9:30 tonight instead of 9? And she's like, okay, So I think there's a lot of like informal
Right.
that you start realizing, like, oh,
Yeah.
like I'm becoming the man of the house at 4 years old. I just talked my mom into an extra 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
My dad wasn't having it. You don't even approach him with that. He's like, okay, it's not 9 o'clock anymore. It's 8:15.
Yeah.
I'm like, but Dad, 8 o'clock. I'm like, yes, Dad.
Right. Do you believe that negotiation, or the negotiation skill, is probably the best skill that you could have, no matter what career path, job, whatever you do?
Well, so again, depending on how you define skill.
Okay.
So I call that like a strategy, but I think it's skills too. So, as I'm just going to kind of clump those things together, like a strategy or skill. I think being caring about the other person is number one.
Mm-hmm.
I think negotiation is down there, but it's a great skill to have.
Yeah.
Negotiation, that's part of sales. That's part, different things like that.
Yeah.
But to me, the number one thing is just care about the person across from you. You can usually get into a win-win situation. And if you can't get into a win-win, then walk away.
Right.
I know I've told you, I've walked away from many deals.
Yeah.
But the biggest one was like 50 grand in my pocket. Best for me, not best for them. Now that doesn't feel good. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
right? But for me, I got to answer to a higher power. And, hopefully they're like, oh, that 50,000 you walked away from, here's 2 bricks of gold worth 100 million. Oh, thank you, Jesus,
Right.
or whatever. But to me, caring's important. But I know where you're coming from. And negotiation is, and how to sell correctly.
Yeah.
Those are 2 biggies.
Yeah. So I'm gonna clump these 2 questions together. So the one.
Do I get to the one that I want to get to?
right now.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Come on, let me get to it.
So it is. I'm gonna clump together the story that you're about to tell,
Yes.
your best story, and then how do you negotiate personally? And I know that'll come across as you tell the story.
Yeah, so again, I follow a system.
Yeah.
Right? Begin with the end in mind, reverse engineering. What am I really wanting? All that.
Yeah.
And so the story I've been dying to tell, which was my first real negotiation.
Yeah.
Right? So my dad ran the West Coast with Woodshaft Golf Clubs. In his later years, he built a multi-million-dollar museum for a guy in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He was there for the whole summer and then some.
Yeah.
Putting up all these golf clubs that he had purchased over the years, and, different things.
Yeah.
So, and I told you that we took a trip across the United States when I was a kid. Both my parents were school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
The day after school got out, we jumped into a motorhome and we traveled and we hit, 30 or 40 states.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen things that most people could never even think about.
Right.
Well, as we were going, he would stop. And
Yeah.
he needed to pay for the trip. He's a school teacher making a lot, right? And so he would, my mom would, maybe be in the motorhome knitting or reading a book or whatever. But he would make me and my older brother, my little brother wasn't around yet. The oopsie baby, he's 13 years younger, 12 years. But my older brother and I, he's 4 years older, he would make us watch him negotiate. Me and my brother would be like this donkey, like this jackass.
Yeah.
So, I got to see a lot of negotiations, not just at that time, but, So I'm 20 years old, around there, and one of my ex-track buddies, who actually lived with us for a little while, I was his best man. I think I was his best man at the wedding. He calls me. He's so we're in Bakersfield, and then there's Sacramento, and then Turlock's about halfway in between, a little bit closer to maybe Sacramento.
Yeah.
Well, he thought I knew what I was doing. I'd never negotiated anything other than, can I go to bed early or later, whatever. And so, but he thought I was the man because my dad was the man.
Uh-huh.
So he goes, hey, this guy's got sports cars.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, I'll be like, I don't know what I was doing, but I went over there. So we sat down with this guy, and he was a triathlete. And at the time, I had asked him, same thing with the sales. What are you trying to accomplish? He said, I'm a triathlete, and I need a bike. I go, oh, well, how much is the bike? And he goes, oh, $400, which, you know, 30-something years ago, that was like, you know, probably a $5,000 bike now. And so I had several $100 bills, maybe a couple thousand in my pocket, because my dad told me about that on the side note, that he was at a garage sale one time and didn't have money in his pocket.
Yeah.
And he asked him to hold back some clubs that were worth, you know, some good money.
Yeah.
And they said they would. And he come back like 30 minutes later and they had sold it. And he said, I'll never have that happening again. You got to be a learner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he always had money in his pocket.
Yeah.
Right? Don't go rip him off, though. He's old now.
Yeah.
You know. And so anyway, so I, you know, I had a couple $1,000, which was a lot of money back then. And my buddy's flipping through the 60s pile of these cards, flipping me Nolan Ryan rookies. They're going for $1,500 a pop, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going through the 80s pile. And I mean, this guy's got, you know, because the 5,000 count box, he probably had $250,000 or more cards. And so we're just kind of thumbing through them as we're talking to this guy and figuring it out. I'm going through the 80s pile, and Ricky Henderson rookies were going for $150 back then. And I'm Ricky Henderson rookies. I'm like, man, is this fake? You know, he's showing me Nolan Ryan, right? So anyway, he tells me $400, and I swear, and I apologize for my cussing. I did not know what this meant, but I heard my dad say it 10,000 times. So I throw down 4 C notes, $100 bills, and I get up and I go, money talks and bull walks, like that. I didn't know what that meant. I'm 20 years old. I don't even know what that means. And I take 2 steps and I hear like you're crumpling up your bed. Boy, he grabbed that money so fast. So anyway, to end the story, we drive down the street. Me and my buddy do a Chinese fire drill. We run around. What is that what they call those?
Yeah.
Run around the car. We get in. We spend all night sorting through these cards. We pull out like $5,000 worth of cards each that we wanted to keep. And then we go the next day to the local swap down there. We each make $5,000 on this deal, profit. Now, that'd be like making 30, 40, 50,000 30 years later.
Yeah.
A lot of money. My first deal, right? So I called my pop up. Thanks, Pop.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I need to apologize to you. He goes, what about? I said, well, you know, I was cussing you. He said, you weren't cussing me, boy. I'll knock your teeth through your head. And I go, well, I wasn't cussing you to your face. I was afraid. I said, I was cussing you under my breath when you was making us watch you negotiate all those years.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, like, get on with it, the story. And I said, well, I just want to let you know you're a pretty smart guy. And I told him what happened. Yeah. You know what he says to me? Beginner's luck, and hangs up on me.
I thought you could say, where's my 10%?
Yeah. No, that was after I got home,
okay.
right? But yeah, so he hangs up on me, beginner's luck. And that would be the one thing that I've always been lucky with. I can't explain. I'm not lucky with hardly anything else.
Yeah.
I find stuff that people do not find, and I buy it severely underpriced. Mm-hmm. And it's, but that was a great story.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. I was Rico Suave walking out. I didn't know nothing going in.
Oh, man. So.
Can I tell it again? Mom, can I tell it again?
So going into business skills.
Yeah.
How would, you know, I know we talked about training to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Is there any way to train to become a business owner?
Yeah, but it won't be probably what you think.
Okay.
So no matter what you're doing, kids, you know, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs or potential.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, give it your all. Mm-hmm. No matter what it is. So we were taught, you know, it was partially in my DNA.
Yeah.
But my environment was taught that way, the circumstances, So even at a young age, right, when I was doing my chores, I did them to the best of my abilities.
Right.
You know, I used to tell my kids, like, hey, if you're going to go and, clean that tile,
yeah,
I want to be able to eat off of it, right? Clean it to the best of your abilities. Well, how do you do that? Well, there's a little system I have, you know. So, you know, you're thoughtful about it. You take ownership of it, and then you go and you smash it. Do the best you can, meaning at it, and so on and so forth. So even when I was, you know, at 8 years old doing the 3 paper outs, you know, I cared about it. And I think I had told you the story before, but it just, you know, the stories are the stories. This guy, it was an apartment complex where we delivered partially to, And he's like, gosh dang it, I want that doggone paper right here on my doorstep when I get out. Because, sometimes we'd get careless
Yeah.
because we were trying to get home quicker than your brother.
Right.
So we were thoughtful about it. We weren't, careless too much, but there'd be times you got a bad start. You get a flat tire, you got to freaking carry your bike.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so I put it on his door to where he opened it and fell into his door. Right, because I didn't know at the time that I was learning all of these skills,
Yeah.
but not just the skills, but the mindset.
Yeah.
And so everything I did, I tried to do it at the fullest capacity,
Right.
except for like in school.
Yeah.
I could just kind of breeze by and get A's and B's without. You were kind of like that, didn't have to study and stuff.
I tried pretty hard.
Yeah, I've heard the stories. Your friends are like stressed out. You're like, what? We got a test today?
Yeah.
Right? But I just think that, no matter what, God's teaching you something along the way. So why not, give it your best? Because you don't know where it'll come back. But guess what? It always comes back.
Absolutely. When starting out a business, and you talked about the couple that owned the restaurant spent 12, 14 hours a day. Do you think it's tough to have both a personal life and a business owner life to put together, or to have both of those at the same time?
Yeah, but but life's not easy, right?
Yeah.
If it was easy, we'd all do it well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that do it well, but there's a lot of people that don't do it well.
Yeah.
So, and just to make sure I understand your question, so you're saying that you work and you have a job on the side, is that both or no?
Oh, no, I'm just saying you just started your own business.
Oh, okay.
And you're getting it started, so you're working 10 to 14 hours a
Yeah.
day and having a personal life outside of that with
Oh.
friends.
Yeah, right. I think there, whoever used the word balance, I'd like to have a talk with them. We should take it out of the, Webster's dictionary. Because as I've said before, with my holistic system, which is spiritual, religious, family, friends, health, physical, personal, social, and then career material, I look at this as not balance.
Mhm.
I think that's unobtainable.
Yeah.
But I look at it more like an orchestra or playing music or a band. Sometimes the trumpets are at the highest, they're going, right?
Yeah.
And that may be your career material at that time,
Right.
right? So when you're first starting, you're going to have to sacrifice maybe a little family and friend time or some personal social time or whatever.
Right.
Because, you can't do all of them.
Yeah.
Right? They do that in music, but I don't know if it's called the crescendo or whatever. I need to look that up probably. But whatever that is, they'll do it for like a short period of time. But if it's a 3-minute, musical thing, the flutes are going and the trumpets are soft. And then the drums are going and then at the end they're all going. So there's times where you would have to be able to do that. And I think that's okay. I call it harmony, not balance.
Got it. Okay. And so now going to talk about, you work your 8-hour shift at wherever.
Yeah.
And you have the startup and you're working that, when you do that, when you were doing that, because I know that you had that when you were teaching, you had your own little business going. What was your commitment, let's say, where you're like, okay, I'm going to spend 4 hours a day, I'm going to spend 5 hours a day, or did you have one? Was it just, I'm going to do whatever I can that day?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both and. It's going back to the budget. So I budgeted my time. Sometimes things went quicker.
Yeah.
So if I budgeted for an extra 5 hours a day, it was 3 hours.
Right.
Cool. Right? Other times it was 7 hours.
Yeah.
And as long as you're communicating that with your spouse or your mother in this case, then, they tend to understand what's going on. But you would have a budget of time. I'm going to spend 4 hours today. Well, life happens.
Yeah.
The baby throws up on your shoulder sometimes.
Right.
And you're not going to just go and, to a business call with, you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to have some parameters, but not be so, restrictive and, like it's got to happen and I got to be a robot, because that's just not real.
Right. And so, we're talking about the categories business skills.
Yeah.
What would you say the number one business skill outside of your systems? I think those are number one, but outside of that, what do you think the number one skill to have is?
I don't know. That's tough, man. But if I had to say one thing, selling. because no money, no mission. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always tell people that business is really a 3-step process.
Yeah.
Number one, you got to come up with a service product or some merchandise, something that you can sell.
Yeah.
And then you got to blink to the world. You got to get it out there. Hey, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right? Blink, 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 blink. Try to get people's attention.
Right.
Right? And then you're going to get customers or clients or POIs.
Yeah.
And then you better take real good care of them. Right? And so you're taking care of them. That's the one turntable. And you don't need to go back up necessarily and figure out what is your next product, merchandise, whatever. Maybe you do. Maybe you want to have more than one SKU. Right? Maybe you want to have 3,000 lesson plans, which we do. Right? But maybe not two. I mean, if you look at In-N-Out, they got a pretty simple menu.
Yeah.
Right? Single, double, or whatever. And then, oh, by the way, that secret menu on the side, I'm like, you know, because me and my buddy, when I was teaching PE, he would go there, and I'd drive him. Every day we go to doggone In-N-Out. And I said, dude, what's your deal? Got to get my vegetables. I said, you idiot. That one little slice of tomatoes, your vegetable? He goes, yep. And I was, is that what you non-vegetable. I don't eat much vegetables, but I'm learning.
You get 2 tomatoes and a chicken sandwich at Burger King. So when I get 2, there's 4. That's pretty good to me.
Eat your vegetables. That's the 9th good nugget, right? The 10th. I got to take off my shoes. There's the 11th good nugget.
You know, when you talked about your day and talking about time, that's the one thing everyone shares, no matter how old you are, what color skin you are. Everyone has the same amount of time, no matter what. Yeah. And so you have to manage that time. And I know personally, and I think a lot of other people run into a problem with managing that time. So what are some things that you've done to help you manage your time on a daily basis? Because I think that you're pretty good at that.
Yeah, system, right? I can do more things in 2 hours because I'm systematized. Is that a word, systematized? Sounds good. You don't know. I ask you about words. What'd you get in English language art, like a C?
88?
I didn't say on one test. I'm a clumper. I meant the whole grade.
I mean, maybe it was an 85, but, I like to exaggerate a little bit.
85, 87, whatever it takes. What was the doggone question?
Why do you...
now you forget.
No, talk about time management.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, system. So I seriously can get more done in 2 hours than most people can get done in 8. Because things come very quickly to me. So I do have some art, what I would call talent. Yeah. But I've also married that with the science, which is what I call systems, processes, procedures, habits, customs, whatever you want to call that. I call them systems. It's my tagline, why systems matter. Right. But to me, it's the ultimate time hack. Yeah. Think about it. Yeah. Right? So if I say to you, hey, we're going to go take 10,000 pieces of wood up the street, and you just go and grab 1 or 2 at a time and start walking. Yeah. And I have a system that I already kind of have done it from the past. Yeah. And I quickly my mindset, I'm going to kick his butt, organize what I need, a wheelbarrow, 2 trucks, whatever. I go call Johnny, whatever. Yeah. Then I just go do it. I'm going to kick your butt, and I'm going to kick your butt bad. Yeah. But here's where it gets even more important. That's just on a one-off. Mm-hmm. What about if we had to do the same thing 100 times? Yeah. I destroy you.
Right. Well, not me personally.
Yeah, you personally. No. You'll be destroyed. It's the Greek in him. He's competitive. What can I do? But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the reality is that if I'm able to, that's why experience is important. Because even if it's informal and you've experienced it, even if you don't have a set formalized system, you're still going to be faster than the guy that's never done it. Right. But I'm going to be faster than both of you because not only have I done it, but I've systematized it, and I can make a slight tweak or adjustment to the system to fit that specific whatever it is.
Right. Got it. So for the last one, we're going to talk about being successful. Yeah. So my first question is what do you do if you've been banging your head against the wall and it's not insanity? You haven't been doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. You've been trying. You can't get success. What is your advice to get some kind of success? Because not having success is tough.
Yeah, you just got to keep you got to keep plugging away. Stumble forward with ignorant enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So I tell people about this is a true story. Now. I didn't make this up.
Yeah.
I'll probably make parts of it up because I can't remember the whole doggone story. It happened more than 3 seconds ago. But the reality is that one of the biggest gold finds of all time was somebody who was trying to get this gold for years, and I don't know how many years it was, and they couldn't find the. I think they call them the mains, the main whatever, the veins, the main whatever that is, where all the gold's at, right? And the guy bought him out and moved 3 feet over, not 30 yards, not 300 yards, not to another country, 3 feet, which is about like this, and hit the biggest gold find that the history has ever known. So I look at it and I say, do you need to give up sometimes and start over? Sure you do.
Right.
But usually, if you keep plugging away, you'll figure it out. And if you're plugging away and you have a system or a checklist that you're going through, that's going to be more helpful than just randomness. Because with randomness, without a system meaning, then you may do that same thing. You say not doing the same thing. You may be doing the exact same thing. Right? It's like I give the analogy all the time to people. Why is it that you have to go touch the stove burner in your house? Yeah, you're laughing. I told you 100 times, right? In your house, and then your neighbor's house, and then your mom's house, then your auntie's house, your papoose house, your papa. Why would you do that? They're all freaking hot.
They look different, though.
Yeah, but they're all hot.
Yeah.
Right? So why do we need to do that? Right? Now, it's a great learning lesson eventually when you burnt your hand off, you look like Freddy Krueger. But the reality is that if you're systematized, even in a checklist, that's a simple system.
Yeah.
Just a checklist, you'd be like, oh, I'm not doing that again.
Right.
I did that 4 times. But now let's look at the other way. Thomas Edison had iterations. So he didn't just go, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, that didn't work for the light bulb. So then I'm going to go do something way over here. He did iterations.
Right.
And so sometimes the iterative process, if that's a word, is it takes a long time. And especially if it's for something special.
Yeah.
So I think about when I was coaching basketball, 8th grade basketball. It took me 8 years, and I worked at it.
Yeah.
I mean, hours and hours and hours a night. Not just during the season, but the off season.
Yeah.
Plays, schematics, skills. I mean, I had it all down to a complete science, but it took 8 years. And I can't remember. I need to look that up too, because I reference it on YouTube a lot and on Quora, which is the 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Or Malcolm Gladwell, in the blink of an eye, you know stuff.
Right.
Right. So you put 10,000 hours into something, if it's thoughtful, and you're taking ownership of it, and you can, plug into mindset, something like that, some sort of cyclical system.
Yeah.
Probably be pretty good at it. Yeah. And even if you don't have the talent or the art.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I could go out and 24/7, 365 play basketball, and I'm never going to be as good as Shaq or, any of those guys.
Yeah.
But I could still get pretty good, probably.
Yeah. When it comes to success, and that's a broad term because someone's success could look different than yours, so I get that.
Yeah, one man's junk is another man's treasure.
Absolutely. So when it comes to a business owner, I'm going to use the word successful, but I can't think of a better word.
Okay.
Traits do they have in common with other business owners?
Well, I think a lot of stuff we've talked about. I think most of them, have some sort of a system. And whether it's informal or formal, I think, a lot of them care about people. They care about the really good ones care a lot.
Yeah.
A lot more than you think.
Right.
There's some donkeys out there that are worth, several hundreds of millions. But if you look at highly successful people, a lot of them are humble and caring and want to, pay it forward and give back and, do those things. So as I've said before, I don't watch a lot of TV, but in the morning we'll have the NFL Network on while I'm, showering and all that. And they had the Tampa Bay guys. I don't know, did you hear about this? This guy went to death row, little skinny dude, goes to death row in Florida, 37 years. He didn't do it.
Oh.
Yeah. And so the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of the linemen and some other guys, did some special things for him.
Right.
I think Bonnie McCarr, and I don't, they, they're humble. They didn't say exactly what they did. They got into a game and different things like that. So I think that success breeds success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of those things we talked about, right? Can you negotiate? Do you care? Do you have, sales stuff in you? Have you researched the product enough to where you know it? Do you have it yourself? Do you, can you talk where people can understand? Right. The reason I talk in what I call touch points, stories, parables, quotes, is because the best teacher in the world taught like that. I think his name was Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. And so do you remember what he said, and he behooved and behoved and, and Matthew 1 and, all the way, and he's but you remember the story at the well with the lady because it's a good story. Right. So I think that's what we're trying to do as entrepreneurs or business people, is to tell a story.
Yeah.
Right. And some of those stories may seem silly, but others of those, because we could say, like, we talked about the little scrub smiley face guy. Yeah. It's like, come on, right? Hey, that helps a lot of people to clean stuff like that.
Right.
Or we talked about before, if you're into aesthetics, the umbrella that you stick on a drink or whatever, that's cool. But the straw guy?
Yeah.
I'm going to give that guy a hug and a kiss, man, or that girl, right? Because that just, that saves me a lot of, of my $4 shirts.
Right, absolutely. So with this question, I'm going to ask it, explain a little bit, and then ask it again.
Yeah, then I probably don't remember.
Yeah. So the question is, are business owners born or taught? And so now my little backstory is, so you have two sons, me and your youngest.
Yes.
And I don't tell people what to do or anything like that. And I'll just go do the job, even if it is not beneficial.
Yeah.
Versus your other son will tell people what to do.
Yeah.
And direct people, not direct, but whatever. Yeah. Just, hey, do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So then the question is, are they born or are they made?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, but it goes back to the same thing. There's some genetics and DNA in there. Mm-hmm. God gives you something with your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
Right? Your mom said the other day, her old girlfriend from 35 years ago sent her a picture. Did you see him?
No.
Little Danelle.
Okay.
And your mom, and she just happened to flukily, if that's a word, find these pictures, and your mom was going, yeah, I was looking at these pictures with my girlfriend, and my kids don't look anything like me, right?
Yeah.
So there's not just the physical characteristics that, obviously my wife didn't cheat on me, you're my kid. We all look, if we put all of the brothers and the 80 boys on our side, we all look the same. Right? It's crazy. So that's a strong physical DNA base, and we've seen that. But there's also the traits where you're not as hyper as I am. Right. You say you can beat me, but you can't. But right. But you do it in a different way. You're the duck. You're competitive, right? But you're like your mom. You're more chilled and whatever until they get you in a competitive sports situation. Yeah. You'll still be chilled. They don't. You're like grandma. Yeah. She'll slice you up and you don't even know it. Right. I'm gonna slice you up and I'm gonna tell you about it the whole way. Right. And so I think that, when you take a look at that and you say, well, here's the genetics and the DNA, well, that's born. But look at all the other things that come with it. There's the environment. That has nothing to do with technically your genetics and DNA. There's circumstances. There's experiences. But in the end, which one's more heavily weighted? I don't know. And I really don't care.
Yeah.
What I care about is that there's a lot of people that have a lot of talent in certain areas. And there's a lot of business owners that aren't business owners. They should be business owners.
Right.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs that should be entrepreneurs, but they're not. Right. There's a lot of people in the New York parks that should be playing basketball in the NBA, and they're not. Yeah. And so my question always is why?
Right.
If you have that, that DNA, then was it because you didn't get some of the training and the conditioning and the environment?
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
But so I think they go hand in glove. I think a lot of times people will say things like, well, is it this or this? And I'm pretty black and white. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of both and versus either or.
Got it. Well, we're closing up, so.
Well, good, man. You've been long-winded.
I know.
Have I been long-winded? Can we turn the camera off?
So as we're closing out, just any final thoughts or final thoughts?
No, but I thought we hit some good nuggets today. Hopefully, people are finding this information to be valuable. The key is how do we get it out to more people?
Right.
That's the key, because as I've said a million times, I don't know if what we're saying is good or not, but it's been good to a lot of people in the past. I would imagine it could be good for a lot of people.
Yeah.
In the future. I'm not trying to sound cocky, but I think I could go and help the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
I think I could go help any business. I think that's how my mind works, right? I can go in and find trouble,
Right.
and I can troubleshoot, even if I don't know about your business.
Yeah.
Because I'll dig enough till I find out enough on how to resolve or solve it.
Yeah.
Because I'm competitive in that way. So whether it's a sports or whether it's an after-school program or K-12 education or all the above, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's a business person, whether it's a salesman or woman, whether it's right. I mean, these systems are universal, and we can plug people into those. And I think that's what's going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years, that people will start to, go, huh, that makes kind of sense. I go mindset, and I get organized, and then I go do it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
If you need to contact Brett or Coach, please do so on his social media accounts, email, and or text. You can find that information in the description below. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Thanks, and we hope you enjoyed.
What?
No, he said that Jesus instead of Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.